my second dream was we were in front of this White House, and I was with all my friends, like my roommates, and you walked up to me and you like motioned for me to come with you. And I started following you. I was like, oh, okay. Like I just started following you. And that was like the end of the dream. You didn't say anything to me. You didn't that was all that was in that dream. I'm like, oh, that's so strange. I woke up again. And this whole time I'm thinking like, oh, I just had something weird to eat last night. Or,
sloppy Joes,
maybe I was scrolling Facebook and, you're like the last person I saw on my dream, saw on my feed before I started dreaming that night.
All right. To start, welcome to the Joe Mel Show. I'm Joe.
I'm Melissa.
And this is a podcast where we discuss life, marriage, and parenting. And today is a special episode.
From a Christian's perspective.
Oh, from a Christian's perspective. That's the first time I messed that up.
It's all right.
So a little bit tired today, but we're going to make it. Today is really special because we're going to be talking about our story. And when I mean our story, I'm talking about our dating, engagement, and wedding story, marriage story, how we started, how we find each other, how we found each other, how God removed the scales from your eyes and you're able to see me for the first time. It was a miracle, and good things happen. But it's really on our heart to give glory to God first and foremost. And we believe that we've had a really blessed relationship from its very onset. And we want to share what good things God has done for us. So there's a few ways you can take this. You can, of course, just listen and get to know us a little bit better and know our backstory. But also want to encourage you, if you're the type of person who is looking for a mate, someone to marry, there's some principles in here that I hope you can learn from, you can grab a hold of, and apply them to your own life. And then, of course, as we talked about, Melissa, there's a lot of you out there who have kids yourself.
Right.
And you want to coach them and help them find the perfect one that God has for them and find out how to do relationships well, because there's a lot of bad modeling out there. Would you agree?
Yeah, definitely. And a lot of times, it's been a while since I've been in the dating scene, but I just see young people going from person to person to person without any type of guidance or any type of standard or even really moral compass. And so I think it's important to share testimonies like ours, or, I've recently heard several other testimonies from other couples of how God supernaturally brought them together. And it was incredibly encouraging to me, that God wants to take part in every detail of our life. And the more we can be submitted to him and submit our plans to him, he will guide us. He will direct our paths. I mean, it's just like in those verses in Proverbs.
Yeah. Commit your ways to the Lord.
Yeah. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Yeah. Lean not on your understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will direct your paths. I mean, God wants to be a part of every area of your life.
Yeah, I think we sometimes have a tendency as Christians because we don't see a lot of explanation or directions in the Bible about how to date or how to find a spouse.
Right, there's no guideline.
There's a few specific examples. I'm thinking of Isaac and
Rebecca.
And Rebecca, and how the servant was led by God to do that, and a couple other examples. But sometimes
Ruth and Boaz.
Yep. And as Christians, sometimes I think we just disconnect those ideas. Like, I'll live for the Lord, but then I'll do the dating thing on my own, and I'll just do what's socially acceptable, socially normal.
Right.
And
like what you kind of look to everybody else around you.
Right.
What's everyone else doing?
What's everyone else doing? How did this person find their spouse? Whatever. So we're going to share our story today, and I believe that God has divinely put us together, and we have good reasons to think that. But we just really, again, want to glorify God. This isn't about how perfect we are and how good we are, because we're just two normal people.
Yeah,
right. We're just
two very normal people.
A Christian boy and a Christian girl who obviously made mistakes growing up, didn't live a perfect life, but found a moment in time where we were serious about pursuing God, and God was able to bless us with a marriage and ultimately a family that we can glorify God with and enjoy here on this earth. So let's start from the beginning, Mel.
Okay.
I started coming to your parents' church back in 1999. So I was 8 and you were 9 when I moved here. You were probably 8 as well.
Yeah,
I moved here
we'll just say 8. We're both 8.
We're both young, and my family moved to Missouri, where we live now. started coming to Pastor Dan Jones' church, and they had a little Guatemalan girl named Melissa that they had adopted years and years ago. And that was pretty much all I thought about you for the next, 8 years or so. We really weren't friends as kids.
No, I have no memories of us as friends in children's church. I was thinking about that last night. Like, I have no previous memories of you except maybe just youth group. And, but I know we were in the same kids class because there's pictures to prove it.
We have photo evidence that we were in the same room.
Yeah, we have photo evidence from all the, programs and different things. But yeah, we really weren't friends as kids.
It clearly wasn't love at first sight.
Yeah, clearly.
Because that would have been 8-year-olds falling in love. I was actually closer to Melissa's brother and sister, who are close to my age as well.
Right.
I was closer to both of them than I was to you.
Yeah, exactly.
For the longest time.
Yeah.
So anyways, I started coming to church. Like she said, we grew up in youth group together, so that meant we went to conferences together. We've been on several missions trips as kids. We've never been on a missions trip since we started dating together.
Yeah, no, we haven't.
Which would be fun to do. And it's been a long time now. It's over 10 years ago. But we did stuff that youth group kids do together, and then we ended up doing the same internship the same year at our church.
Right.
Which I thought about this. I'm really grateful that you didn't go right into it because we were able to do it together because you're one school year older than me.
Right.
So you could have done it a year earlier. You could have done something a year earlier. But we were able to be part of the first Honor Academy of the Ozarks class together.
Yes.
Which was really cool. And we still just didn't really pay attention to each other.
No, not at all. Not at all. I mean, several of my roommates, even in the internship, liked you, had eyes for you. Other girls in our youth group, growing up, other girls would literally talk about you to me. They would talk about you. They talk about Sam. I would say you guys were probably the most eligible guys at church. Everyone loved you, adored you. You were just the catch, I guess. But, I never had feelings for you. I just didn't have feelings.
We really saw each other, I think, as brothers and sisters in
definitely.
Christ. We did work a lot together in the internship. We were both leaders for for our particular gender group that we were in charge of. And
that's when we worked more closely together. I would say when we became interns, and that was when we were 18 and 19 years old.
Yeah.
Those 2 years.
Yeah. So that went on, and that actually started up, and we were both graduates, and still no fire. Still nothing, after all those years together.
But I do want to say, I think during that time where we were working more closely together, especially in ministry, I grew to have more of a respect for you. I got to know more of your character. I saw just the way you lived your life. And I remember having thoughts of, I really respect Joe. Now I can see why everyone likes him so much, just because he's a really great guy. But that's where it stopped. I didn't ever go into thinking, I might marry this guy someday. I just never had those thoughts.
Right.
Which is wild.
I think your sister, though, she asked us, Jessica, she asked us both if we had feelings for each other. I know she asked me that like several times throughout the years.
Really?
And it was always a no. Yeah. She's like, you ever thought about, Melissa?
Oh, I don't think she ever asked me about you, but my parents definitely did. My parents have had their eyes on you for, I don't know, probably since you were 8.
Since I showed up.
Yeah.
1999.
Oh, too funny.
Yeah. With my long curly hair.
Yeah.
So we started off, and it really started our adulthood without having any sort of feelings for each other.
Yeah.
And
still worked in ministry together. We're still part of the
band.
Yeah, the band. And I think we did Bus Kids together, our Bus Kids ministry. We did different outreaches. I think we even helped with some of the youth activities as well. You were the youth pastor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we definitely served alongside of each other. It's not like we stopped being around each other. We've always been around each other. But there was a time, as we fast forward a couple of years, I'm in college. Still doing a lot with the ministry, still doing a lot of different things. And I began realizing that, a dream of mine would be to have a family and to be married. I've always wanted that. And I was in a period of my life where I feel like I wasn't getting anywhere, and I really wanted to honor God. I grew up in church. I grew up going to youth group. I grew up understanding that, my life, my future relationships my future relationship with my wife will be like the ultimate goal. It's the ultimate idea, right? To marry someone and to create a family. And I wanted to do things right. I wanted to save myself for marriage. I wanted to really be spirit-led in who I married and not just marry some psycho out there.
Yeah.
So I was going through those thoughts in my early 20s, and I began to realize that I really wasn't getting anywhere. And I was frustrated because I felt like if anything, I led some girls on and I made them expect more out of me. And I was like, no, actually, I don't want a relationship with you. And I felt like I had hurt people unintentionally, but I felt like I wasn't doing it right. Like I was not either being patient enough or I wasn't being discerning enough. And I wasn't out there dating a bunch of people, but there was just some things in my life where I was like, I feel like I've fallen short in the relationship game.
Yeah.
And it was getting to the point where I was so tired of, thinking about hurting other people. I didn't want to date anybody because I was like, I don't want to hurt someone emotionally and crush them. And so I remember I was probably 21, 22. I remember praying and asking God, like, if this isn't going to work, if I'm going to be single my entire life, I'm okay with that. And I just kind of came to that conclusion. I actually learned this from a book by Lauren Cunningham, how he gave up his right to a family and to a wife and just decided that, hey, if I'm going to be better at serving God single, so be it. I'll do that. And really, it wasn't like I want to be single, I want to be this monk or anything. It was just saying to God, I give you permission to be in charge of this area of my life. Yeah, where I was no longer going to make decisions and ask God to bless them. I was no longer going to try to do it in my own power. I basically told God, hey, if you send me the right one, let me know and I'll marry her. If you don't, I'll be happy and content to serve you as a single person the rest of my life. And it wasn't until that moment that I started thinking about Melissa, at the time Olson. Mm-hmm. And it really came like those thoughts that come out of nowhere. It's like you had never thought them before. I just started daydreaming or thinking. I don't remember if I was near falling asleep. It wasn't a dream because I was conscious, but I remember thinking about you in a new way, thinking about you as a potential spouse, as someone to be desired, someone attractive. And I was like, whoa. And immediately I just like cast the thought down because it's like, I can't think of Melissa that way. She's my sister, we had that sort of closeness as people who grew up together and worked together. And I just I never considered you as a person to date. And it was just a new thought to me. And I kind of just put it on the shelf and I was like, well, that was weird. And it was a couple of weeks, I think, after praying and telling God, like, hey, I just want to live for you, whatever that looks like, single, married, whatever. I just want to live for you. And so that was happening. And it was a really strange experience. What were you doing during that time?
Well, I was interested in another person and I had the same desire. I wanted to get married and I wanted to have a family. And what's funny is like I said, I developed a very deep respect for you and your godly character. And again, I remember thinking like, this is like a really good guy. Like I want to find someone like Joe Wolf, but not
someone like me, but not me.
Yeah. It's so funny how dumb that sounds now.
Yeah.
But I would say I came to a point where I felt like, I think I'm just wasting time. Like I'm involving myself with someone that is not, like, I just don't see a future with them. I'm like, why am I doing this? And it really, I think, distracted me for a time. I think there was probably a possibility that we could have come together sooner.
Yeah, I think so too.
If I had given, I would say that was an area of my life I hadn't given completely to God. I kind of felt like, I have a okay sense of character. I really did not.
Right.
So I think that was an area I didn't surrender completely to God. And so I invested time into someone that wasn't going to be a future spouse or would never work out as a future spouse. And do you want me to go ahead and start talking about dreams
Yeah, go
that
ahead.
I had? So again, I never thought about you in a way of someone I wanted to potentially marry, but I kept having these dreams about you. And just really quick, I'll say the dreams. The first one was I was on this road and there's all these cones lined up, and each cone had just this, it almost looked like a note card. And it was just these encouraging, almost like romantic love type phrases on each of them. And I can't remember exactly what each one said, but that was just the central theme. And so I just kept following these and reading these cards. And then at the very end of the road, it was you waiting for me. And you kind of like extended your hand and you kind of motioned towards this building. And I knew, like in the dream, you know how sometimes in your dreams you just know something's going to happen?
Yeah, exactly.
And so I just knew that we were going into like a really important event, whether that was like a wedding or just something of that magnitude. I guess there's nothing greater than like a wedding, but I'm just saying, you know, just something really important was going to happen. Like you were taking me into something. And my first reaction was no. And I woke up and I was like, that's such a weird dream. Like that's odd. And then my second dream, these were all like months apart, all probably over the course of 2012. I had these dreams.
That sounds right.
And my second dream was we were in front of this White House, and I was with all my friends, like my roommates, you know, some that actually still go to church with us were in my dream. And I was talking to them outside of this White House, and you walked up to me and you like motioned for me to come with you. And I started following you. I was like, oh, okay. Like I just started following you. And that was like the end of the dream. You didn't say anything to me. You didn't that was all that was in that dream. Like, oh, that's so strange. I woke up again. And this whole time I'm thinking like, oh, I just had something weird to eat last night. Or,
some sloppy joes,
you know,
or
maybe
something.
I was scrolling Facebook and, you know, you're like the last person I saw on my dream, you know, saw on my feed before I started dreaming that night, you know, so I kind of chalked it up to like, this is just random. Well, then the very last dream that I had was in December of 2012. And I had this dream that we were alone, like in this really, really big room, and it was dark, and it was just kind of like the spotlight on the two of us. And you just, again, reached your hand out to me. And this time I said yes, and I grabbed your hand. And I woke up, I was like, that is so strange. And what's also funny is I never put these dreams together.
Right.
Ever. Like I never thought, oh, this is God
telling
me something,
what to do.
you know, not at all. And it wasn't until, you know, several months after that dream where things really started picking up, started changing.
Right. So it's funny how as soon as I made that commitment to the Lord, like I want to just do whatever, you know, I'm willing to give up that right or that my hold on doing relationships and having a wife and a family. You started flooding my mind, not you personally, but just images of you and thoughts of you. And it was really, really crazy. And I started growing attracted to you. I started having feelings for Melissa. And it was, like you said, it was kind of a no-brainer. You've been there. You've been super consistent, walked with God for years and years and years, never had a questionable character, always had good attitude about serving in church. I mean, you were a pastor's kid. You are a pastor's kid, but you had such an intensity and desire to serve in the church, which is what I had as well.
Yeah.
Since I was a young child, I've loved the local church. I've loved serving in it. And so there's all these obvious signs that, hey, this person would be great for you. And for some reason, I was just blind to it. So time goes on. I'm starting to think maybe I should, you know, maybe this is God telling me that this is the right way to move. And of course, you were seeing someone else, and I didn't want to be a jerk and just butt in on that and start a knife fight or something. So I just kind of played it cool, and I was patient. And it really, I didn't see an opportunity to get in. I felt like you kind of made up your mind about who you were seeing, and that was sort of the direction you wanted to go. And I felt disappointed and discouraged. And then, you know, there was other people coming and going out of our lives. And so I kind of saw it as maybe there's other people out there that God would lead to me. And I tried to get to know some other people and went on a couple of dates. And then what happened after I took someone else out on a date?
Yeah, I found out you were taking someone else out on a date, and I just instantly felt awful. And it took me by surprise because, like I said, I had never thought I had feelings for you. Mm-hmm. And I just remember feeling like completely conflicted. I thought, why is this bothering me?
Yeah.
Like, why do I care about him going out with other people? And it just really was messing with me. And I felt like I couldn't tell anybody how I was feeling because everyone kind of knew, for one, I was seeing somebody else, but two, that, it was Joe Wolf, it was our youth pastor, it was someone I had been, around for, almost half my life, and I just felt like, I don't know if I should be feeling this way. Why am I feeling this way? I just had so many questions. And I ended up telling my sister Jessica. She's my confidant, and she asked me, outright asked me. It was definitely the Holy Spirit. She's very intuitive.
Yes.
And she said, "Do you think you'd ever be interested in Joe Wolf?" And I said, it's funny that you would mention that because I'm having, like I said, a really hard time with him spending time with other people. That's really bothering me. And I said, I don't know why, because, I'm literally seeing somebody else. I feel so wrong about all these things. And she's like, what if I told you that he also is interested in you? I'm like, that's not true. I think you're lying. She's like, no, he is interested in you as well. But because you've been seeing someone else, he has not pursued anything. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is, and she's like, I think you need to really think about this and pray about it. And she's like, it could be God bringing you two together. And I was like, okay, and I just, kind of put it on the shelf and was just kind of watching. And, again, now that you were, I was just really torn. I was just completely torn because of the position we both were in. And so fast forward to what?
That summer.
And I really felt like before this trip, I thought I have to see, like I really felt like God was telling me that you have two choices.
A fork in the road?
Yeah, a fork in the road. I really was at a fork in the road. And the Lord was telling me, you have two choices, life or death, because this is what your life is going to look like with this person. This is what your life will look like with this person. And it reminded me of that verse in, I think it's Deuteronomy, right? Where he says, choose life or death. Choose life.
Yeah, I said before you, life and death.
Yes.
And then he goes on to say, here's what you should do. You should choose life.
And so I told myself, because we had this trip planned to family camp. It's a week-long Bible camp in Wisconsin. And we were both going to go. We were both going to lead this trip with a lot of other young adults and put on this conference for teenagers the whole week. And I really felt like the Lord was telling me, hey, when you go on this trip, he was just saying, just give it a chance. Like follow me and follow my guidance, because I just try, just see what I have for you. Because, at this point in time, we're also doing ministry together. And, so he was just trying to direct me, like, just, submit to me this week.
Yeah.
And just hear what my plans are for you. Just like, okay.
Yeah. It was kind of an interesting moment because I knew that, I was still seeing you as my number one choice. And there was this, this tension in myself, like, well, what do I do? And, how do I get her attention without, again, being rude or being pushy, without telling her, like, look at me, I've been here your whole life. How, now I'm ready for you to come be part of my life. In a way, I didn't want to come across as like reactionary. And
Yeah.
we'd known each other for so long. I never asked you out on a date or anything. But I too felt like this was the time. And during this trip, I made a decision. I said, I'm going to kind of lay everything out for her,
Yeah.
tell her what I've been feeling,
Yeah.
let her know, that I, for the first time, have viewed her as someone who's attractive, someone that, it's basically telling a girl I like you. It's like
Yeah,
the note,
yeah.
like, do you like me? Yes or no? That was really the first time we ever talked about us having a
Yeah.
romantic relationship. And
Yeah.
again, we'd been around each other for years and years and years,
Yeah.
working together, traveling together, doing all sorts of stuff. So there we were, like you said, we were on this trip, and I kind of knew this was it.
This was it. Yeah, this was the week.
Either we were going to make a decision to fall in love and date each other, or I was considering being single the rest of my life. Like those are I just really didn't have another great plan B. But we're staying at a house called the White House,
Yeah.
with a bunch of single young adults, like you said,
Mm-hmm.
and we were all doing ministry together. So a great group of people to be with. And I remember thinking, okay, we just got to get her alone and talk to her. I just got to find a time to talk. So what did I do? I asked you to go for a walk.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I made a huge mistake. I texted you and said, hey, could you want to go for a walk this afternoon? Because we had a free afternoon,
Yeah.
whatever day this was.
It was a Thursday.
And you didn't respond to me, and like minutes go by, and you know how it is when you text someone you like. If it's not seconds reply,
Yeah.
I'm already filling in the blanks. What is she thinking? She thinks this is a dumb idea. My whole life is doomed. Anyways, then I asked her after several minutes had gone by, I said, hey, did you see my text? And you said, oh no, my phone's downstairs. I shut it off because it hasn't been working all week.
Yeah, it was terrible signal. So I'm like, what's the point?
Yeah, no fault. It was totally my fault. I should have manned up the first time. So then I asked you in person, do you want to go for a walk? And you said, sure. And you grabbed your coffee and shaking.
It was
Probably
rattling.
spilled
Oh my
half of it.
gosh.
And
I don't think I drank it the entire time.
no, and for the first time, I told you how I was feeling. I said, I
Yeah.
think I'm falling in love with you. I don't know if I used the word love. I don't remember exactly what I said, but it was very similar to your dream with the house that was white and the hand reaching out. And,
Yeah.
And what did we agree on? We just said, hey, this is something we want to pursue. We feel like God is speaking to both of us. That was really important. And we made a decision to kind of tidy up our personal lives and put some, close some doors, close some chapters of our life individually. I was getting ready to go on another missions trip for 2 weeks, just a few weeks later. So in July. And so we decided to really start our relationship officially after I got back from Italy and France, which was, again, a great time for us to just be alone, talk to God, and really a good chance to back out too if we felt like there was any sort of checks in our spirit, but there wasn't. And things went well from there.
That was a strange thing that I just felt complete peace about it. And I guess it shouldn't be strange, but I think for me, having that complete peace and just kind of knowing like, this is it. Like I knew, like when after our walk and we talked about starting a relationship, once you got back, I thought like, I'm marrying this man. Like this is just like, I'm literally saying yes to him forever.
I felt
like,
the same way. I felt the same way.
I'm like, this is not something you just start and not make to marriage. So I went in knowing like I'm marrying Joe Wolf.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, that was a fascinating, and you're right. It really wasn't me asking you, do you want to go on a couple dates and see if we like each other?
Yeah.
I was in my heart, I was thinking the same thing. Like if she wants to date me, like I'm going to marry her.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know why I felt that way, but maybe it's just all the confirmations ahead of that. And again, I already knew you're trustworthy. I already knew you had high character. It was like all the vetting process had been done over the last 16 years or whatever that we knew each other. Maybe not that many years, 12 years, something like that. And it really was easy for me to see us together permanently. And so it really was a big deal for us to commit to that relationship and to commit to start dating one another. So after I went on that missions trip to Italy and France, came back and just started going out on a date. And
our first date was Starbucks.
Classic. Actually, before we went on a date, I think I talked to your dad.
Yeah, that was something that we
from him.
Yeah, you told your parents. You know, I told Jessica, she was on that trip with us when we were in Wisconsin. I told her what we had discussed. And of course, she's like completely excited and just ecstatic. She's just,
I was afraid she's going to tell everybody.
Yeah. And I told her, I said, we just, you know, it's not going to be anything official until after he comes back from the trip. You were going with her on a trip.
I went with her, yeah.
Yeah, to Europe. And
which, when we were there, every time we went to a souvenir shop, she would wink at me and say, "Did you find anything for someone special?" And I think I did buy you a moped coffee cup.
Yeah, I still have it.
Maybe some other things I can't remember.
Maybe a magnet.
I didn't have a lot of money.
Very
back
small,
then.
just small things, you know. It was cool.
I almost got you like a knockoff Versace purse from a street dealer. There's a lot of those. Yeah,
they were trying to talk you into buying that, Jessica.
They were showing me all sorts of stuff. Take a look at this. Take a look at this. Yeah.
I'm glad you just kept it real low key.
Yeah.
So that was totally fine. But yeah, we just started, you know, talking to people around us and involving other people into the relationship. While you were gone, I met with, you know, someone who I deeply respect, and we've actually had her on our podcast. If you look back at some of the episodes, if you look for one that has Scott and Sue Battaglia in it, I actually met with Sue and just poured my heart out to her and just talked to her about, you know, everything that we had talked about. And I was just seeking accountability. I was seeking just getting guidance, just getting support, really, you know, encouragement, involving other people, because I, as well, you know, it was important to me, like our parents and people that knew us very well were also on board.
Oh yeah.
Too. Not that we had to follow their guidance. Like ultimately we had peace from God, but it was important for me to involve other people. Of course, we involved your older brothers, Sam and Ashley. They poured into us a lot over the years. And actually, I think, didn't you tell them about me like months before?
Yeah, I was, that's right. I forgot about that. I remember telling them as soon as I started having feelings for you back when, you know, I committed to the Lord to give up that right. I remember talking to them, just looking for some advice. Like, what do I do when I just, for the first time, I'm interested in a girl that's, you know, totally seems like the right person, totally seems like it would work out great. You know, everyone's kind of surprised we haven't already started a relationship at this point in our lives.
So obvious to everyone but us.
And I was just at a loss, like, what do I do?
Yeah.
You know, it seems like she's interested in someone else. And so, yeah, I had spoken with them prior to speaking with you, I guess, about that feeling. And again, let's just pull out some lessons out of this so far. What I really wanted to avoid is anything in secret. You know, I didn't want to date anyone in secret. I didn't want to have a secret relationship where people are gossiping and coming up with their own stories about what's happening. Yeah. I'm the type of person where if I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it in a way that I'm not ashamed of it by any means. And I wanted to honor you, respect your family. Obviously, I have a huge respect for your dad as my pastor. And so I wanted to make sure that everything was done decently and in order, and that I didn't have any sort of ulterior motives or anything that could be perceived as being inappropriate. But I also know my human self and know that I'm able to err and I'm not perfect. So I wanted other people around me to give me accountability and to kind of be an extra set of eyes, and for people to say, oh, it's actually not going to work at all. Like, you're totally wrong.
Right.
Or, oh yeah, that seems like a good thing. You know, there's a blessing. There's safety in having godly counselors around you. So I knew that, like I said earlier, I didn't want to break anyone's heart. I didn't want to be this person who messes people up and just moves on, being insensitive. I had a real hard problem being insensitive when I was younger. And so I think going out and finding other people to hold me accountable before I started dating was really, really helpful. And it gave me a sense of security and peace, knowing that, okay, I'm not just crazy, but this does seem like something that God is moving me towards. And so I think that's something that everyone should do. You should all have someone that you can reach out to and just say, hey, let me tell you what I'm thinking, and tell me if this sounds stupid, right? Am I right? Am I way off? Yeah. This is kind of what I think God is speaking to me about. And find people who aren't yes men, who aren't just going to say, yeah, sounds great. But find people who are people of faith that won't also shoot you down if your idea is huge or your dream is too big. So yes, I had already kind of collected some people around me to support me, and asked them to pray for me and just kind of be there for me, so that I had someone to go to and talk to besides just you when we were dating.
Right. Yeah. And same thing. I wanted people that I could talk to and ask questions with, and really just because of like who we were, you know, in our group of friends and in our church family, I wanted to have people a part of our relationship and to, like you said, just be eyes for us and to guide us. I mean, I knew, like when I said yes to you in Wisconsin, I knew my parents would be completely on board. Mm-hmm. I knew that. I knew my sister Jessica would be completely on board. It was other people like at church and stuff like that I kind of wanted to hear from someone who wasn't related to me.
Right.
You know, I just wanted someone else's input that knew me, that taught me growing up, that had invested a lot of time into me, to also like give her input. And so that's why I met with Sue, and, you know, and they were a big part of just, you know, other things along the way, you know, premarital counseling and stuff like that. But
yeah, they come back later in the story.
Yeah.
Hey, as you can probably guess, this episode went long, so it is a two-parter. Please join us next week for part 2 of our story and hear some more of God's miraculous power and provision that he provides for us. We'll see you next time.